To our enterprising agents and investors nationwide. Today is Thursday, December 19th, 2024, and this is All the Leads Mastermind podcast number 508. I wanted to start by just making a little announcement. We rarely do this, but next week we will not have a call on December 26th. We'll take a week off for all of you that want to take a 5-day weekend. We'll give you a chance to do that. So, and then we'll pick up again the following Thursday on January 2nd. And the second thing I wanted to mention, I was teasing Bernie a little bit before we turned the recording on, but Bernie sent us a really good Matchmaker lead this week that we have passed on to one of our longtime subscribers. And hopefully it's a situation where everybody's going to get paid. And I just wanted to remind y'all, this was a case where it was kind of basically a commercial land deal, and that's not Bernie's forte. But if you have anything that's out of your market, in your market, too big for you to handle, something you don't want to work, just go to alltheleads.com/matchmaker and just answer half a dozen questions and we'll find a match for it. Tim, what have you got, sir? It's all yours.
If I want to compliment Mr. Carney, you look marvelous today. You're well turned out.
I got all these doggone Christmas ties. I figure if I got to wear them, otherwise I won't get them in. So
you're looking good today, buddy. You're looking good.
Thank you. Yeah, fresh haircut too.
You've raised the whole character of the call now.
I agree.
That wasn't my intent.
The only thing I was going to say before we start, first off, make sure that you are aware of how to get called on. And how to share your information with us and all that sort of stuff in terms of what you want to do and not do. You need to work on getting your hand up in the air if you want to do that. And the way to do that is to, now it's moved again. I thought it was in reactions. Now where did it go?
It is. It's still react.
Mine doesn't show it anymore. That's
Click
bizarre.
on the heart. And then there's a bar that says raise hand, at least on mine.
Oh, there it is. I guess I should read better. Anyway, the purpose of this call obviously is to have it interactive. We don't come here. It may seem like we come here to talk to ourselves, and we do a lot of that, but we really want to hear from you. This is your call, and that's the purpose of doing it. Is to make sure that we hear from you, and we're here to help you. And we learn so much every week from people bringing up interesting situations that they're working on that we haven't run into before or whatever. And after doing this for over a decade, we always run into something we hadn't seen before. That's always changing. So please, next time, anytime you want anything to talk about, please raise your hand. We'll be delighted to have that conversation and have you be part of what we're doing. One thing I was going to start with this time is really just to kind of talk about sort of setting the stage for where we're heading. And I'm gonna do this pretty quickly and then turn it back to you guys. But spent some time talking with Bruce this morning. I've talked to Jody. Jim and I talk every day I've talked to almost everybody, on here that's part of our team during the week this week, and to a lot of people in our industry, and kind of looking at what's going on and what's happening with pricing and pressure and changes in the marketplace and all of those sorts of things that affect all of us. And I think it's safe to say this is one of the more tumultuous periods in our industry's history. Certainly one of the ones that is most tumultuous right now, and a lot of things are going on. And obviously we have a new administration coming in January that's going to potentially change things economically and have some view to doing that. Last year we saw the changes with the NAR ruling that made some changes for us. The role of the local board is changing dramatically. That was one of the conversations Bruce and I had this morning. And we think that during the course of the next year, that's going to continue. We're also seeing a lot of people throwing tons and tons of technology at the industry, and also throwing tons of, let me show you how to do this, just send me your money. There's a lot of those people out there that weren't there this time last year. And there's that old axiom of those that can't do, teach. And unfortunately, what's become of this is those that can't make any money trying to do it are trying to make money teaching now. So there's some of that stuff that's going on, and we're about trying to help you do some things to maybe separate yourself from the pack a little bit. And so what I was going to ask you to do, a little bit of homework between now and we're going to give you a week off, but we're going to make you do a little work during that period of time. We really want you to give some thought to what you see going on, what's happening in the market from your perspective, what you're hearing. We want feedback from you as well. And a lot of you are highly responsive people. You're very involved in what's going on in your industry and your local marketplace. And we want to hear from you. We want to hear what's cooking, what's happening in your market, and what you're hearing about what's being discussed. Because a lot of what happens in our industry is that perception becomes reality. You talk about things and enough people say the same thing over and over again, and it becomes the reality of people's lives. And unfortunately, with the information age being what it is, that doesn't take very long these days. And that perception may only last for a little bit of time, but it's changing things. Our perception right now is that there are two things that have to do with the migration of people in and out of our industry. One of them is that a lot of people who may have previously been part of the new crowd that come in every year to become real estate agents and investors have shied away from the industry this year because they're concerned about what's going on in the marketplace. And a lot of people entered the industry as an agent with the idea of becoming a buyer's agent, and that's challenging right now. So a lot of things like that are happening. That's something that we know has bearing on it. The other side of it is there are people who were buyer's agents who are struggling and trying to figure out what their role looks like going forward, and they were not into being negotiators very much. So being able to negotiate a contract with somebody to show houses is not something they do very well. So those are some of the things that we want to talk about. So the next time we get together, that's a conversation we're going to have, and we're going to have some conversation about that going forward into the next year. Because as we create product offering and educational offerings and backup and support, which is what we do in addition to just giving you leads, we want to make sure we're helping you go in the right direction and giving you the tools you need to be successful. Not just telling you about how to do it, but giving you some practical examples of how to make that work. So if you can kind of come back to us armed with some thoughts and literally give this some things to think about, make that happen. The other thing that I'll also make you aware of is that we are increasingly taking a long look at what's going on with the legislative things that are happening. There are changes in legislation coming in regard to what you can and can't do on the telephone, what you can and can't do with text. The TCPA law is probably going to get modified again next year. We'll see how that goes. So we're going to continue to try to do the things that we need to do to be a point of contact for you and give you the best info that we can. To that end, Matt is usually on our calls. Matt from Appointments Today usually joins us, and right now he's not with us today. He's off in an education session in regard to the TCPA laws to make sure that he's giving us the latest info there as well. So we'll bring some of that back to you next as well. Anyway, that was just kind of where I wanted to start. I would like you to literally take me at my word, and please, next time you're with us, come back with at least a piece of paper and a few notes on it that say, here's what's going on in my world, and here's what I can contribute to this discussion. Don't just sit and listen. Bring some points to the table and let's everybody talk about them. That's what brings value to this conversation. Having said that, Mr. Bruce, how are you today, sir? Good. I love it when you can't talk. That's awesome.
You're
I am
Bruce.
muted. Holy cow. Okay, sorry. Great. Things are good. The market's interesting. There is market share to be had and picked up because things are a little bit volatile in a lot of markets, which is really exciting. Right? I hope everyone recognizes the opportunity when there's a little bit of turmoil, and I wouldn't say we have massive turmoil, but market seems to be shifting a little bit. I'll go back to previous shifts. Going into previous shifts in the real estate market, the first shift in '08, I went from less than 5 or 6 houses a year up to 100 within a year or so. And this is an opportunity for a lot of people to take advantage of changing market, changing rules. You've got the NAR lawsuit that was settled. Um, we have different responses and reactions from prospects that we're prospecting or marketing to. All these things are actually a very good thing for the person that is willing to adapt and adjust and start to think a little bit outside of your box. So I'm just going to encourage you guys to look at some of the things that are happening in your markets and get excited about them. If you don't like change, it might be a little bit troublesome for some people. But if you like change and you like an opportunity to gain significant market share, the market that we're in and gonna continue to go through is your opportunity. And that's what I got, Tim. Take it away.
You believe all that, huh?
I believe it.
All right, that sounds good. So, Billy, you're smiling and laughing there, pal.
I just want to echo what Bruce is saying. This is an absolutely amazing time. I was thinking about 2007, 9, and 10 about how this is much more much better opportunity because you have those that have to sell. There's a good percentage of those. You have those that want to sell, and then you have those that would like to sell. So it doesn't matter what market you're in. It's a great opportunity. I personally like the have to sell. But the other thing is I think buyers are in my area, buyers are out in force. Not a lot of offers. They would not shocking when a house comes back with 6 or 7. I just sold a house in Nevada that was 1.7, and those people came back between the open house and there was 9 times based on what the buyer's agent told me. They came 9 times. So I just think that it's a great time to be a realtor. It's a great time to tune up your negotiating skills. And, I think the thing that everyone should learn based on all my learning in negotiations is you try to make everybody win. It's never perfect for everybody. Everybody wins. There definitely is times when people lose. And when you're dealing with people in foreclosure, it's really hard for those people to realize that they've lost control, they're out of control. Selling's the best option. But from personal experience, I tell them when you get through the foreclosure and you're on the other side, there's a whole new life and a whole new freedom. So that's a win too. And Merry Christmas to everybody.
There you go.
And Bill, I was going to say, relating that to the late mortgage leads that we recently started offering, the beauty of those is you're catching them in most cases when they're far enough behind, they're probably not going to be able to dig out of it, but they're not so far behind yet that they're going to end up having a foreclosure on their credit. The
Right.
big difference between a list pendants once it goes into foreclosure, even if it gets, it's always better to do a short sale and save it than to have the foreclosure be finalized. But once that foreclosure goes on your credit, it's way more harmful than just being 2, 3, 4 months behind. That's significant. You can't buy anything for a year versus 7 years. So there is an opportunity for it to be a win-win there with those people. If you catch them in that sweet spot when they realize they're not going to do it themselves, but they're not quite desperate enough that they have to sell at a 50% discount. You've got time to get it listed at a normal.
Well, and then on the flip side, most homes have equity. It's not 2008. It's not 2007. I was selling $1 million houses for $185,000, right? So that's not there. And then the other thing is I know I've been doing the divorces. I'm really looking forward to the next round because I think I've really battered the ones I had. I will use the word battered. But I really feel like we're evolving that as all the leads, also the students I talk to. I feel like we're really evolving the area, and I think it's going to be really, really profitable because 90% of those are have to sales.
Bill, and I will comment on that also, if I may. I recently called every divorce lead we've had for almost a year. I think it was 9 months plus. And I was a little bit surprised. I think my perception was they were going to be quicker than probate. But the feedback I got, no, there are often limiting factors, like, they're fighting about the divorce, even if they've agreed on the divorce, the kids get to stay until the school year is over. There's often a future trigger that is going to make the sale be mandatory according to the divorce settlement. So they all told me that they've got, I mean, a few of them had a quick ready come get me, but the majority of them were, it's a nurturing process. It's a lead follow-up process,
Yeah.
just like probate.
And you're right. And the other thing I've learned is to give them a lender quick so that they can pre-qualify them both and who can buy each other out, which usually doesn't work out. Right. But
Yeah.
it's great to get over that hurdle. And then also the attorneys love how you bring them information, market information. It's going down, it's going up, whatever. It seems to speed up the thing. So the attorney who doesn't always want to finish it fast, but if it's a problem one, they want to get rid of it. So
Sure. One of my favorite things I remember from the call we did with Lizzie, that has the Society of Divorce Professionals. She's been doing it for 20 some years. She said bring the whole family into consideration, not just one, and including the children.
that's great. That's very good. Yes.
She said what she liked to do is find out what age their kids were, and if the house has to be sold, come with some alternative properties. Maybe you're going to sell this house, but you could buy a townhouse in the same school district. That they very much appreciated that, and she said that was something nobody else was doing. Consider everybody, because it does affect everybody.
That is really true. More and more fathers don't want to be in San Francisco and their child's in Marin. They want to they want to have the ability to pick them up from school, take them trick-or-treating, not make it a 3-day ordeal where they have to get super organized, just pop over and do it.
Right.
That's great. Yeah.
Hey, Eileen McWilliams, you had asked if, we do divorce on here and obviously sort of turn it off that way. Did you have a specific question that you wanted to talk about?
Not in particular. I just had gotten an email. That's why I'm on here. It was in
Okay.
reference to divorce.
Sure. That's great. Yeah. I mean, we talk about divorce, we talk about probate, we talk about pre-probate, talk about late mortgage, we talk about any of the things that we provide leads for, we talk about, and we'll talk about anything having to do with our industry as well. So anything you want to talk about, just raise your hand and we'll be happy to help.
Thank you.
All right, great. Anything else of our coaching team here that would, like to kick in? Steve, you got any words of wisdom other than looking sharp today? You're muted again, Bubba.
Yeah. No, I think the point is getting a lot of phone calls on late mortgage, which is good. And one of the things I offer is, hey, you really want to treat it as if you don't necessarily know you're looking to purchase in the area, or for some people that are interested, just as an entry line. And that seems to have gone over well with some of the folks I've received feedback from. So, it's not an area that I typically do, but, I find it intriguing just as we go through this and we grow and learn a little bit more about it. So, I mean, the beauty of coming on one of these calls, even like I've said to folks, is look, usually by Saturday morning, if you go on YouTube, which is free, you can catch the episode and listen to it at your leisure. Maybe you're doing other chores, but something will be pulled from this that I guarantee you'll be able to implement at some point in the near future.
Right. Phil, I'm asking you to unmute there, Phil. Ask you a quick question. Phil Webb had asked a question about, do we provide probate leads on land? I'm assuming you're talking about raw land or farmland or unoccupied land. And the answer is, if it's in the estate, that's what we provide. I assume that's the question that you're asking. And there you go. Phil, go ahead.
That's the question. Yeah, probate leads on land. It can be infill residential land or rural land.
Yeah, it's basically anything that is existing in the name of the decedent. So if the decedent owned raw land, then obviously, and it's part of the probate, then it would be there. If they own commercial property, occasionally we'll even run into that, that'll be there. Residential, multifamily, whatever it is, it's whatever real property is in that person's name. That's what's included in the leads that we work. That data is there when we do a property search for it. When we do that, that's there.
Let
Matter of
me,
fact, go ahead, Bruce.
I'll chime in real quick. As kind of in production, admittedly, and I don't want anyone being like, Bruce, you said you're not in production. So being someone that still does a little bit of production and has done a lot in the probate space, when the leads come over, all the data that is collected is on there, including the decedent's last known address. That address is quite often, 75% of the time, still owned by the estate. Now, that address, if it's vacant land, is not going to be on the base data that's provided, but there is an extra layer of skip tracing that you would probably want to go ahead and spring for that'll give you the additional real estate that's owned, which would include additional rental properties, vacant land, timeshares. Sometimes, actually, I don't know if I've gotten timeshares through probate. Anything that's additionally owned. So you're probably going to want to, if you're looking for the land, you're probably going to want to go ahead and grab Property Plus and get the additional level of skip tracing that doesn't come just basic with the leads. And Tim, you can probably put this a little bit better than I am. With that said, I see land a lot. So the address that comes over with the leads, I'll call on it and the person will say, yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to sell that house, but what about this lot or what about this land? And we see many pieces of land with every single lead file that comes over in my market.
Just
Hey,
a quick
Bruce,
question.
Go ahead, Jim. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask a question about timeshares. Do timeshares show up? I mean, it's interesting that you said that because I've never seen one in all the stuff we're doing. I've never seen something listed as a timeshare. Has anybody?
No, it doesn't show up. It doesn't show up on any leads or any Property Plus pull. But through conversation, I've found timeshares a number of times.
Yeah, okay. That was kind of my question. I'm sorry, Jimmy. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to add that matter of fact, the lead that Bernie sent over this week was 4 acres of vacant buildable land in California. I mean, that was not a cheap lead. And over the years, I've been asked quite a few times, like, what percentage of your leads are vacant land? What percentage are commercial? And it's the same percentage as owned by Americans. 2-3% of people own those type of assets because people don't die according to the category of real estate they own. I mean, I'm being a little sarcastic, but you're going to get a mixed bag of everything, and it's going to be pretty much proportionate to what's owned in your area, as the people pass away. So you'll get some. And like Bruce said, if you want to search for them specifically, get Property Plus. It'll make it easier for you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I wholly endorse Property Plus. It gives you more deals. It saves you a lot of time, and it is not expensive. It is very valuable.
Thanks, bud. Hey, Mark, unmute yourself there, pal. You got your hand up. There you go.
So my question is, I'm thinking about purchasing some of these late mortgage leads, and in your marketing for letters on your website, I didn't see any there. Jordan, I asked him to send me some. He sent me one, but he said you guys have 4 that are available to look at or tweak or whatever.
Jody, I'm gonna unmute you there, bud. I'd like you to answer that if you could.
Yeah, I mean, there should be. I'm gonna have to look into why there's not, if there's not. So I'll take a look at that right now.
Okay.
Definitely available, Mark. And if you're only seeing one, we'll see why that is real quick.
Thank you.
No problem. Hey, Real Estate Richie, what's going on with Real Estate Richie?
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Good. How about you?
Very good. Thanks for your time here. So I've been going down to the courthouse just because I had jury duty recently, and Bruce was kind enough to help me out and kind of maybe try to find out what I'm looking for. So I had some nice lady spend some time with me, and she kind of said, hey, look for wills, because in Virginia, the will is only recorded when someone dies. So that is kind of like your hint, hint, someone passed. However, when I'm looking at the will, I don't see an address. So like what else am I kind of looking for? What should I be asking for to kind of find if there's real estate involved and what is that address so I can kind of then circle prospect or skip trace, get the information and start, seeing how I can be of service to them.
So this would be, it sounds like you're describing a will that is not, has not had probate applied for yet. That's what it sounds like. So,
Yes, okay. And then the thing with Virginia is they don't record probate, so I can't find out about probate.
okay. Tim probably needs to speak to this from a data collection standpoint. I'm still having a hard time figuring out how they don't record probate because there's a lot of probate applications that do become public throughout Virginia, and that's yeah, I know you're in Northern Virginia. It could be a couple of counties there don't publish that. Tim, do you have any idea what that might be as far as not recording probate?
I really must apologize. I was looking at the letter situation in the beginning.
Yeah.
Ask the question again. I'm
So
sorry.
Richie has been to the courthouse, and the clerk has told him that they don't record probate, that he needs to look up the will when a will is recorded as a way to kind of get an idea that there could be an estate being settled, there could be a probate file, but they're telling him in his county courthouse that they don't record probate. They don't make that data publicly available. And I'm having a hard time believing that they're telling him the truth, having been a realtor in Virginia for a while. I feel like maybe they're unintentionally, because I know you've talked to them and they were super kind. So I feel like unintentionally they're telling you something that's not 100% true.
What county are you talking about, Richie?
Prince William County, Fairfax County, and Loudoun County. They're all right next to each other, but Prince William County is the one I've been going to.
Right, and they're telling you they don't have probate data.
Yeah, she said probate is not public records. She said will is. You can look up wills. And
There may be a semantics issue. I mean, those are counties that we've been active in for a decade. So for sure, the data is data that's there. You say public record, what they may mean is that they don't publish data out so that you can go online and look it up. That may be the answer that they're giving you, but the probate is a filed legal document. It has to be a publicly done transaction because that's how estates get settled. The creditors have to be notified. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of probate is that if a death happens, people have claims against that estate and they file them via that probate filing. That data's got to be available. And of course, in those counties, I know for certain that is the case because those are counties where, we've have and do have a subscriber that deals with that data. So,
yeah. So what should I be looking for? I think Bruce said one time, try to look if there's an administrator application.
Yep.
But what am I looking for? Am I looking for something like called probate? Would there be actually like a probate file or like a search bar?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there would be.
Is it a surrogacy court or just a regular?
It's going right to the county, into their library area, into the probate section. Then they have got a computer where I can go into public record stuff without having to pay for some sort of subscriber service. And I go into their database and I can look up certain things.
Right. I mean,
I would
go ahead. I'm sorry.
If you can't find anything on the will, I would then go and probably look up there may be like a file or a case number on the will once it's been submitted.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could look up a case number that way if there's a case number on it. Maybe you could look up the obituary. And then if you can find the obituary, you'd have to do a little bit of extra skip tracing to try to narrow down who it is. It's some legwork. It's definitely a fair amount of legwork doing it that way. But there's going to be a process if all you can get a hold of is a copy of the will. There's going to be a little bit of process. And here's another thing that I want you to take note of. Generally, when you get a probate file, so you get a probate list of leads, those normally include people that have applied for probate and administration. So she's telling you to look up wills. The problem is that leaves out all the estates that have to go through a probate similar process that don't have a will. So you're missing potentially half or more of the estates that are going through a probate or probate adjacent process because all you're doing is looking for a will.
Yeah, because wouldn't be a trust be totally different? Like a lot of people here are loaded and everyone's got a trust for some reason. So like I don't even see that on a will, right? That'd be totally different.
No, yep, you wouldn't see that. So a trust is hard to get a hold of. So trusts, if you're going to work estates that are in trust, it's very heavily going to be referral based. So this is going to be from your networking with attorneys and estate sale companies and different services that the beneficiaries of the trust go to that service. A trust is pretty much never going to be public record and findable. But what happens if I were to go to the courthouse and apply for probate, and my loved one did not have a will? I'm not going to apply for probate. I'm going to apply for administration. And then that gets included in the public probate records. It's a slightly different process, very, very minor, but it's generally included with all the probate filings. So if all you're doing is looking for a will, you're missing all those administration cases that are going through a public process that looks a lot like probate. It's not. You're missing those because they didn't have a will to file. So I think you either have to get a lead source that's giving you the data, or if you're wanting to, I hate to use terminology like this, but if you're wanting to slog down to the courthouse every day or week and do it yourself, you're gonna need to talk to them and kind of get a little bit better answer because it is public. They may make it really difficult to get, but it is public.
Okay.
And if I could be a little self-serving, we've been collecting there for 10 years and our collectors know how to do it. If they're going to make it that difficult, man, I don't know, I'd want to do it anyway, but if they're going to make it that difficult, you might really want to bite the bullet and get the leads from us.
Well, I just want to say something else right now, just for your info, so that you kind of know what the magnitude of stuff is that we're talking about. You're kind of rolling. We do a rolling 3-month average because we're always looking to lead counts and making sure that we're providing what we say we're going to do. And for the last 3 months, the average in Fairfax, for example, is 178 probate leads. So that's a lot of, I mean, if you're going to go get it yourself, that's fine. But I know this great company, I think it's called All the Leads, that sells that data. You might want to consider possibly becoming a subscriber just for fun.
And that's 178 a month, Tim. That's not, yeah.
I was actually going to say that from the beginning. Like it sounds to me like you're doing a lot of, scrubbing and work and all of that. And really, essentially, you just want to get on the calls. You want to market to these prospects, to the leads, and you want to get on the phone and get to them. And a lot of the times it's like, going down to the courthouse, figuring out the address, and now you don't have the numbers. And then you have to do another sourcing of getting the phone numbers. It's a lot of work that you could be utilizing, just lead generating and calling and actually doing the work that gets you the end result. So
Well, absolutely. And the other thing that makes it pretty important, just based on what, she said and I'm saying, is this, that if you're finding that nice people there who are trying to be helpful to you are somewhat discouraging you from saying, well, it's not really there, know that the bar gets raised every time that happens for anybody else that's trying to do what you're doing. So you might as well get a leg up on it. And again, back to this, be smart about how you're spending your time. Think about it as money. And I mean, that's the most valuable commodity that you have. And that's what we're here for. We provide you the best data, the actionable data, and we get information that just getting, if you did get the data at the courthouse, you've still got to go through everything Bruce said. You got to skip trace. You got to make sure the addresses are deliverable for mail. You got to make sure the addresses are right to begin with. Is their property included? And that's part of what we do for a living. So certainly my advice to you is certainly consider talking to one of our folks and, become a sub, bud. Let's get you some money.
So I'm gonna jump in because we're kind of encouraging people to buy leads. So I'm gonna speak to the room really quickly, using some of what Richie has done as an example. Now, Richie was there for jury duty and was next to the clerk's office and went in and had a great conversation. This was something that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. I want to encourage everyone, even if you are buying your leads through an aggregator, someone that knows how to work the court system and collect the leads and skip trace the leads and find the heirs and find the phone numbers and things like that. It's a little more complicated. You guys, and this is doing a disservice to all the leads. You guys can pull leads yourself by going to the courthouse. It can be done. It's how ATL gets the leads. It's a little bit complicated, but here's the thing that the point I want to make. Anyone who's working probate, you owe it to yourself and you owe it to your clients to have been to the courthouse a few times. You owe it to yourself and your clients to have seen the applications. You owe it to yourselves to have talked to the clerk. You owe it to yourselves and your clients to have been to a probate hearing if it's public. You guys need to do these things. Otherwise, I don't want to say you're clueless. Come take probate mastery and you won't be clueless, but otherwise you really don't know what your future clients will have been through or what they are going through. So Richie has done the right things. He's gone to the courthouse, and I'll say that Richie, you're probably one of 5% of subscribers that get leads who's gone to the courthouse, who's talked to the clerk, who's looked up the wills, who's been, I don't know if you've been to a hearing yet or not, but potentially has been to a hearing. You guys need to do that. And by the way, I've known agents and investors that got business by going to hearings. There are a few investors and agents that I know that regularly go to hearings. The attorneys get to see them and get to know them, and they hear what the families are discussing. Some people make that a major part of their business. But if that's part of your business, you also need to be finding the leads and making the calls and doing the marketing as well. So that wasn't necessarily directed at Richie, but I thought it was a great opportunity to let you guys know that what he did is right. That's what you all need to be doing, even if you go then buy the leads.
Well, and we talk about making probate a pillar of your business, and we talk about making divorce a pillar of your business, and we literally mean that you should become an expert in it. And kudos to you for doing that. I mean, I'm tickled that you made the effort to go do it. And I think Bruce brought up another point that I didn't make when I was talking about the leads themselves. We also furnish you, if the court includes it in the docket, we furnish you the attorney information for all of that. And one of the best sources of getting future referral business is the attorney side. So if you go through and, for example, if you've got a county, which is a large one like Fairfax, where there's 170 plus probates every month, you sort those leads by the attorney, and you'll find that the same attorney shows up as the attorney of record for 15 transactions. That's a very, very good attorney that you want to target to try to go get some business from, and we teach you how to earn that business. You can't just walk in the door and go, hey, I want to get your probate business from you to sell real estate. You're back out in the street before your echo dies down. So we're going to try to teach you how to do that. And that's one of the things that, Bruce focuses on. And we do the same thing. We talk about marketing to those attorneys, and we actually have letters and things that you can use to do that, and brochures that you can leave behind, and how do you provide value to an attorney, all those sorts of things. So again, we're short-circuiting the process for you. That's why we're here. It's not just, even if you could get it at the courthouse, that's just the start of the process of the wealth of information that's available to you in regard to every probate that you need. And if you can certainly acquire it yourself, if you do
Who
what we do,
told you?
hire all those
Because
Harold,
you looked on Life 360.
That's all right.
I don't know what that was. Was that Eileen?
That was Aline. Yeah, she was taking a listen during the call. She's allowed.
Anyway, and
Hey,
you know, we'd be happy to work with you and certainly get you squared away and let you hit the ground running in the new year and make millions of dollars next year, and you can be a superstar.
a quick add-on, Tim. Steve just posted that one of our longtime subscribers, Bill Gross, has built a career by going to the court hearings and making friends with the attorneys. He just reminded me of a story we had. Oh gosh, I think it's been a couple of years ago. But one of our subscribers, it was he knew what was going on with the probate because he followed the paperwork. He knew that the executor, one of the other heirs, was contesting it, and it was a $5 million listing or $5 million property that he really wanted. He went to the court hearing and he said, I looked around the room and I sat next to the only guy that wasn't wearing a tie. I figured he might be the executor. and I got the conversation. He said, what are you doing here? And he said, oh, I specialize in helping people. And just acted like it was incognito. And he said, you got to wait because after the hearing, I want to introduce you to my attorney. Well, he got that listing. He also established a long-time relationship with the attorney who started sending him business. He was the only person they'd ever seen, the only realtor they'd ever seen that showed up at a court hearing. So, you know, you never know. Do the right things. You never know how it's going to turn out.
Yep. And everything that you can do to educate yourself to become an expert in the subject matter that you're working in. Think about this. If your job was to be an auto mechanic or your job was to be a seamstress, you're going to want to learn everything you can about the industry that you're in. You're going to, you know, if you're going to be a superstar seamstress, you want to know about sewing machines and how they work. You want to know about different stitches and threads and, you know, what makes up the right stuff to get that done. Same thing as an auto mechanic. It's constantly a training process where every year you learn about the new stuff and all of that. And part of what we're trying to do is make sure that when you ultimately where the rubber meets the road for all this is at some point, you're going to be talking to someone who's in probate, who does have real estate. That real estate needs to get sold, and you need to have the answers. Not all of them. You're not going to have them walking in the door. You're going to learn them as you go. And the more experience you get, the better you're going to be at answering the questions. But you need to have a good understanding about what they're dealing with, because if you don't, and you don't know what they're going through in that particular court, if you don't know what that court looks like, you don't know what they're dealing with, one of the things right there that you know you may deal with is that they may have had to make a court appearance or they got one coming up. Would be really nice if they haven't had to do it yet, and you know what they're likely to be dealing with there. You know, you could make something simple like, hey, by the way, you know, when you have to go up here and judge so-and-so's court, the coffee machine is on the side table on the right side. I mean, show that level of expertise, something that simple. You know, it's establishing commonality. And Jim made a great point about the fact that we've got people who regularly do attend the court proceedings or try to do that simply to do exactly what Jim said. They look for the attorney side. They also look for unrepresented people who are fumbling, who are asking questions of the judge from the docket. Well, how do I do this? How do I do that? They don't know. And if they don't, when they're done, you know, it's like, hey, I saw you were, you know, talking up there, and I might be able to help you with that. You got a second? Let's talk.
And Tim, the more you talk, you keep reminding me of past stories. But one of our clients this week texted me of the Happy Holidays video, which I thought was so nice. It was a 15, 20-second video. We've had subscribers over the years that have used a little video. They stand in front of their courthouse. Anybody who has been there, whether it's attorney or an executor, will remember walking into the courthouse, and they make a little quick selfie. Hey, standing here in front of the getting ready for the probate hearings. I'm here on a regular basis. You know, give me a call. And they would send that out to both executors and attorneys. If you're going to do that, brand yourself as somebody who goes there regularly and who's associated with that courthouse. Because people, if you ever seen these like insurance race reduced in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, they'll show a picture of somebody driving a car. That's what the big companies use for marketing. A little guy could use the same concept. You know, take a video and use that in your marketing. It's powerful.
Great.
That's it.
Hang on one second. I have a question here. Sharisa, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself there, if you would, please.
Yes. Hi, how you doing?
Doing fine. Why don't you ask your question again?
So I'm fairly new as an agent in the DMV area. I'm licensed in Maryland and DC. I'm soon to take my Virginia test as well. I really am interested in the probate side and want to specialize in probate, but I just wanted to get opinions on where should I start and as a freshly new agent as well.
Bruce, you want to take a shot at that?
Sure. I'll start with I'll start not by talking about education, but by talking about mindset and goal. You've got bunch of people that have bunch of people that are applying or passing away. Okay, let's just say what it is. They have estates, need to be settled. In the early days of this process where they're applying for probate or thinking about applying for probate or not sure, or they've applied and they're dealing with other things, they're talking to the lawyer. Many times they tend to be resistant and not to an agent and investor. All right, this is going to sound scary. It's really not. They tend to be resistant to an agent and investor, and they tend to say things like, hey, we've got it covered. Our attorney's doing everything. We don't know what we're going to do with the property yet. Things like that. I want you to start to practice and learn how to read between the lines.
Okay.
Read between the lines. When people tell you those things, that is almost a guaranteed seller. So almost guaranteed. We don't know what we're going to do with the house yet. What's that mean? It's probably empty. They probably haven't talked to their other family members about it yet. Okay. So if you're like your competitors, and there will be some competitors, it's nowhere near the competition and circle prospecting, expired, for sale by owner, different lead sources like that. Most of your competitors don't know how to read between the lines, and therefore they burn a lot of great leads. So what I'm doing in the beginning is I am trying to identify who my pipeline is. Who are going to be those people that have those conversations with their family in 2 or 3 or 4 months and make real estate selling decisions? And if I can figure out who they are early in the process, I can prospect and market to them effectively. So I do want you asking the real estate questions of your prospects and leads early on. But if they say we don't know, it does not mean that they're not a lead. Your other competition thinks that, oh yeah, that's not a lead. It's not good. They have everything. Oh, we got it all handled. Our attorney's doing everything. Yeah, we're going to do whatever our attorney says. We don't know. A lot of these different responses people give you. That's a good thing. It's a good thing. Number one is it keeps this as a blue ocean. It keeps it as a blue ocean. If everybody you called told you exactly what was going to happen with real estate, um, agents and investors would flood into this niche, and there would be absolutely no opportunity whatsoever. And I'll give you a really good example of how I use this in our market. I've partnered up with another area real estate professional to do our calls and do some marketing. And over the last 90-ish days, we've identified 150 people that we are quite confident are going to sell a house. Of those 150, I would bet all but 10 have said, it's too early. We don't know what we're going to do yet.
Okay.
Okay. That's 150 people, though, that I know are going to sell. All right. I have my game plan now. So when you get started, what you're doing first is identifying your pipeline. That's your first thing. You need to do that through calls, through marketing. From marketing standpoint, you've got the opportunity to do direct mail, but you also want to be able to be found online. So a couple of videos, get a good probate or estate-based website. I like to use the word estate on my website domains. That way I can still get the people that have trusts and things that aren't going through probate. So I like the word estate. So get yourself a website, put a couple of videos out there. Interview some of your area vendors and professionals, so attorneys, estate sale companies, things like that. Just do a few Zoom interviews and put them on YouTube, basically. And then make calls. Okay, call folks. You're not calling to say, hey, sorry, someone died, let me sell the house. That's going to turn them off. You're calling to offer probate guidance and probate assistance, which is one reason why we were telling Richie, or well, one reason why Richie went to the courthouse to learn the process. So go to the courthouse, learn a little bit about the application process. It's not very complicated. There's plenty of things that you can do that'll take years to build. Those aren't many of those complexities of the business aren't required to get business. You can get business with a very simple model. You make a call, you offer probate guidance. When the person tells you, we don't know what we're going to do with the real estate yet, you put it in your pipeline as this is a seller in 6 months. And that's what you're doing. That's what you're identifying. Now, if you want kind of a higher level of education under training, alltheleads.com training, there's a course called Probate Foundations. So Probate Foundations is free. That's just hour and a half or so teaching the basics of probate. If you want advanced, get Probate Mastery. That's also under the training dropdown, and that's a certification course that I teach. Very good. It'll give you everything that you need to know. And anybody that does, if you do Probate Mastery, we're doing a remake of it in January with a whole slew of live classes. So if you get in before January, you'll be invited to all those live classes as well.
Okay.
Okay.
And the other thing that I'll just camp on top of what Bruce said, the other thing that you need to personally be doing as opposed to the action side of it is to make sure that you begin thinking about what you do as opposed to your competitors to add value as an agent to that transaction that's different. In other words, because it's probate, what makes that different to you and what makes that different to your client? What do you personally, what does Sharisa do that makes Sharisa the person that they want to deal with as opposed to someone else that they might want to deal with? That we always preach adding value first. You've got to be able to demonstrate that value. You've got to be able to help them talk about the things you can help them do. And there's a lot more to all of that. If you check on some of our previous calls, you can hop on YouTube and see we've talked a lot about that through the years, and it's something that Bruce certainly will be teaching, and we teach in foundations and everywhere else. It's adding value. You've got to be that valued, trusted resource. I want to point out one thing, Bruce. It's interesting that Colette said, and she's pretty experienced at doing this as well. She's down in Houston. That it's getting harder and harder to go to hearings because a lot of hearings now are being done on Zoom. And it's the attorney and the judge, and it's in the judge's office, and the Zoom is happening in the attorney's office, and you're not seeing it. And in certain, depends on the market and all that, that's certainly becoming the case. Have you seen that, Bruce?
In some markets, yeah, absolutely. Yep. There are still hearings because not everyone can do Zoom.
Sure.
In some markets, it's kind of the norm for it to be done on Zoom. I don't necessarily know how to crack that code yet, but I've had investors, agents, magistrates, attorneys tell me in even those markets that there are still hearings, especially when there's a contested case or there's maybe someone that's not technologically savvy. So let's say that the magistrate or the judge has 2 days worth of hearings a week. In markets like where Colette is, in markets like that, it may be 2 days a week, but 1 or 2 days a month, they'll do all their hearings with people that can't do Zoom for one reason or the other. So there are still hearings that are held at the courthouse. It may not be the norm in some markets anymore, though.
Well, and the other thing I was going to think of when she said that, what it said to me is there's an opportunity, and I hadn't thought about this until she made the point, but the opportunity would be there if you know that you're in a market where that's likely to be how that gets done. And certainly it's an available option where a lot of that is being heard via Zoom or WebEx or whatever they're using in that market. If that's happening, you can certainly make that part of what you do and say, hey, and in addition to that, I know you're probably going to be maybe going to a hearing online or maybe more than one online where you may not know all the questions to ask. I'll be happy to be on that with you and help you and, be part of that process. And that's something I'm just kind of talking through this in my own head as we go, but I think that's something we ought to think about how we could help them add value to that process. Or I can give you a list of things that you need to be talking about when you get into that hearing with the judge. Do you have a Zoom hearing coming up? Well, yes, I do. Well, then, this is something that I might be able to help you with. Now you've provided value. So we'll look into that a bit more as we go here. Guys, it's 1:59. We've jammed through another hour here. Before I give it back to Jim to send us away, first off, I want to certainly wish everyone the very, very best holiday they can possibly have. And hope you've had a great year. And we look forward to helping you be part of making next year an even better year for you and all of us. It's a challenging time. We want to be a beacon of light in that challenging time and help you grow. So we're here to help you. I'm just waiting for Santa to come to the front yard with all the gifts I know you're sending me personally, and I'm just waiting for them. So I'm sure they'll be there soon. But more importantly, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to work with you in the last year. We look forward to doing that. We will be taking next week off, but we will be back, as Jim said, we'll be back Thursday, the 20, what is the date of the next one?
January 2nd.
January 2nd. We'll be back on the 2nd. So get sobered up and come back ready to rock and roll. We'll be looking forward to meeting with you then, and we'll have some interesting things to talk about at that point. We'll probably be shooting some emails out. We always do crazy stuff at the very, very end of the year, so may have goofy things to try and help you lighten up your wallet a little bit and help us pay for our Christmas and help you grow next year. So keep your eye on your email and all that, but we appreciate you. Thank you so much for everything you've done, and we hope that we've been a good part of your life this year. Anybody else need to say anything before Jimmy sends us away? Jim, take us home, buddy.
Well said, Tim. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. Hope you enjoy your week off from our calls. Hope you enjoy the holiday with your family. I want to particularly thank Mark, Bill, Steve, Richie, Aline, Charissa, and Colette for actively participating. And I want to challenge each of you sometime in the next 2 weeks, take one idea that inspired you on this call, go out and put it into practice, come back in 2 weeks and share the results with the group. Happy holidays, everybody. Have a great couple weeks. Talk to you soon.
Ho, ho, ho.